Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara, and we are here today to talk about the Twilight Zone Season 3, Episode 28. It's called The Little People. And this, of course, is a story about some evil businessman who looks down at all the poor people and goes, "Ha ha ha ha, I have all the money and they are going to be poor for all their lives." I joke, it's Twilight Zone. It's very literal. It's a very literal title. Two astronauts who... it says planet here. Did Rod say asteroid last time? I feel like at some point there was an asteroid mentioned.
Yeah, I think in the description from the previous episode he said asteroid.
Yes.
Because we were really excited to have another asteroid.
Planet makes more sense though, given, atmosphere and other things like that.
They're very lucky, yeah.
It's an M-class planet. It's funny how often in Star Trek they're M-class, isn't it?
That means there's plenty of roddenberries to eat.
I kind of hate that joke.
That's a Futurama joke.
So the premise of this one is that our two astronauts have had to make an emergency landing. We don't see any of this, of course. We just kind of pick up with them. And we have a character named Fletcher, who is the captain, who just wants to get things working again. He wants to do repairs. And we have the character of Peter, who does nothing but complain. It's a complete inconvenience to him that the ship had to be emergency landed, and Fletcher's like, some meteorite hit the front of the ship. There's really not much else we could do. This is how it's got to be. We got to stop and make repairs.
How horribly inconvenient for you.
Yes.
All Peters, they're all alike. Power hungry. Whining.
So, given where this episode goes and the complex, shall we say, that the character of Peter gets, I knew there was going to be some jokes. I knew there was going to be some lines about my personality.
But your ego?
I have a great ego. Thank you very much.
Great indeed.
It's the best ego. No one has as good as ego as I do. So... That's a decent joke. My favorite joke though is saying no one is as humble as I am. I love that sentence.
Oh yeah, my favorite joke is still the Roddenberry joke.
Okay. Sure. All right. So yes, the premise of this episode though is Peter goes off and finds that there's a civilization of tiny people. To the point where when he shows the other character and gives him like a telescope to look down at the ground, it looks like a helicopter shot of a small town. Effectively, we see like the docks and like tiny ships and things like that, and we hear a little bit of the just the rumblings, the noise of the coming down from below, and that's kind of the first half is like sort of what is Peter discovered. Fletcher kind of confronting him about it, finding out where he's getting water, and sort of discovering this. And that was all interesting. I was into this well enough. I was like, okay, this is a fine idea. It's kind of a flip of an episode we've had before where it turned out that the woman we were following in the bar. If you remember that episode where it turned out she was the alien and we were actually the tiny ones. We were the
tiny people.
Yeah.
And the little wind-up robot toys.
That's the one. That's the one. But where this actually goes, it gets much more interesting because Peter gets a god complex and starts to rule over these people. And what's funny is the biggest scientific problem I have with this episode, the biggest one, is that he gets these tiny people who are the size of ants compared to us to build him a statue that's his actual size overnight. He compares it to the building of the pyramids in Egypt, and I'm like, you realize the pyramids, to the scale of these people, is like maybe an inch high. Like, you. This is the equivalent of building a structure to us that actually goes out of the atmosphere. That is how big this statue is to these people.
Yeah, but if ants built one, they wouldn't go out of our atmosphere.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that to sort of convey the scale. The point is in one night, They planned, conceived, and did this statue in one night.
Well, they're very efficient, and they have a lot of fear.
They do have a lot of fear because he starts stomping just to like, he's a vengeful god. He's like, just so you know, I have wrath. You will, do this, do that. But this is the interesting stuff because then, the other character, once he sort of sees him doing stuff like this, he sort of protects the town and says, you're seeing yourself as a god, but you've effectively shown them the existence of a devil. And I almost thought that there could be some fun stuff here where we could like cut down to this like civilization and see how they're kind of building their theology based on these two figures that are fighting up in the sky. Like, there's a lot of interesting ideas just kind of like, it's one of these ones where almost everything that did or said made me think of the possibilities of what they could do with this idea in a longer format.
Yeah.
There's so much potential in it.
This would be a good one for the next season.
For the next season?
Well, though they have longer episodes in season 4.
Oh, sure, yeah. That's what you mean. I thought you meant the new show. And I was like, no, I got cancelled, Tara. Praise be! They got cancelled, the new one.
Praise be to Lord Peter. Ooh, I don't like that line. Cut that out.
I like it. So I think it may even be my new ringtone, honestly.
And you don't have a god complex. Okay.
Praise be to Lord Peter. Speaking. Yeah, that's definitely getting clipped out and used in a variety of ways. So
Great.
Yeah, so I particularly liked when they do start fighting and the tip of the statue gets knocked off and it lands on the ground and then Peter picks up and throws it into the town. Like, well, I get like it kind of like adds the charm to it to never see it from their perspective. Part of me wanted one cutaway to like them just watching this big statue head like tumble, because I love that you hear sirens, you hear like fire engines and stuff like just but tiny.
It's true. I mean, my imagination was working also when when he was throwing the head down onto the town, just like what that would look like from their perspective.
My imagination was working. Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm sleepy.
The brain not so much, but the imagination's firing on all cylinders.
You can cut that out too.
There's a lot of things here that I've been told to cut out that are definitely not getting cut out. So, but this is where this is like. This was a really solid episode of Twilight Zone, and there is a twist at the end which I kind of saw coming a million off. It was kind of. Do you know what the twist at the end of this is? It's the Men in Black ending. It's we are looking at this small tiny civilization or thing in here, and then the ending is, oh, but now we're tiny compared to something else. That's the ending of this episode, is that another set of astronauts show up, but now they are so big compared to us that I actually thought the ending is quite not dark per se. I mean, it's kind of dark, but more just brutal, because the big dude picks him up, and because Fletcher leaves, he leaves him behind. He doesn't want anything to do with him. I mean, Peter even threatens that he's going to kill him if he doesn't leave, because he wants to just be left here to be God. He's mortified when he says, okay, I've fixed the ship's time to go. He's like, what? But I'm God. I'm God. But the big person at the end picks him up and he goes, oh crap, I've accidentally crushed him. Oh well, I didn't even mean to.
What a horrible way to go.
But what got me is he throws him back down, and there is actually a shot of like the actor landing in the ground and like some pebbles and rubble falling on top of him, and I thought, that was actually a bit more brutal looking and like a bit more visual than I was expecting from this, and I thought that was a neat visual.
The shot of him crushed in the giant hand was kind of silly because of the limitations of the
effect,
special effects, but the next scene was just him getting crushed by rocks, and it was good stunt work. It's good. Yeah.
Obviously, it's a classic case of comeuppance. It's this could almost be a Tales from the Crypt episode as well, because it is a character who's a piece of shit who ultimately gets exactly what they deserve at the end. So you've got that going for it. I think what I like about this though is because the ending's fine. The ending's a little predictable but fun. Looks good.
I actually was thinking that the ending would be different. I thought it was going to be something else.
What do you think it was going to be?
I thought the town was going to nuke them.
Yeah,
with tiny nukes.
I did consider that. I mean, I wasn't thinking nukes, but I was thinking, because we actually get a nice visual after he dies. There's a visual of all these like strings that the town have obviously like put up all these ropes to pull down the statue, and I loved that shot. I loved that they put that in at the end because it added back into all the imagination that was going into like what was going on down there the whole time.
Right.
But like what you were saying, that I wasn't thinking nukes. I was thinking they might start rebelling by like we might see like little mini explosions on his like shoulder and stuff. That, I mean, don't actually do much damage because they're tiny. But he's like, ow, what's like firecrackers or something? Because it's them firing missiles and shit. Like,
sure, yeah.
I mean, I guess what we're describing, because I mean, I've never seen any versions of it, but isn't Gulliver's Travels kind of on this sort of
yeah, there's
wavelength?
a tiny civilization there. Yes, I'm sorry,
Yes.
I'm having a hard time with words today.
Or Army of Darkness has a scene with Bruce Campbell versus many Bruce Campbells.
It's also a little bit of like Godzilla, just like people trying to fight against something so massive.
Yeah. Of course, a very different perspective though.
Right.
And for once, the movie that we're comparing this to came out before this. It already existed. Usually it's, they were probably inspired by Twilight Zone. No, not Godzilla. Godzilla predates Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
But no, I think that was my favorite part of it though, was just when I started thinking about what this town were going through down there, and they're scared of this godlike entity, they're scared of these things, but like what are they actually doing down there? What is the, like, you could almost do a sequel to this episode that is just the town's perspective of all this. Like that could be a fun time, bizarrely.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, what does it even look like to, look up and just see? I mean, I suppose we kind of see at the end what it looks like because we look, but I get the impression it felt different to them because they're in their town and it's just effectively a cat, and he's bigger than a kaiju. Like if you compare it to Godzilla, this guy to them is taller than Godzilla is to us.
Yeah, I guess I was expecting when Rod talked about what the episode was going to be, a civilization of like small people, but not like microscopic people.
You were thinking like children height or something?
No, I was thinking more like the ratio in the other episode with the woman in the house.
Okay, so toy-like, yeah, so action figure size.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess.
But I guess it makes more sense to do microscopic because then you don't have to like do any special effects.
Yeah, beyond just one or two shots of like a foot hovering over a field and like a building.
Yeah.
So, I dug this, and I think where it became properly interesting is that I think the actor who played Peter, there was a point where he just goes full hammy with it, and I think unlike other episodes where I think that might have like sank the episode, I think here's what made it work when he starts going, "I'm a god." Me.
I really liked him actually. It's not the first time we've seen either of these actors in the Twilight Zone. They were both in previous good episodes too. Peter was in the Third from the Sun episode, and Claude Atkins. Yeah, I want to say Clay Akins. That's not him. That's a very different person. He was in The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street.
Oh yeah, no, they both seem. I couldn't have told you for the life of me what episodes.
They were both like so familiar. Yeah.
I couldn't have told you what they were from, what episodes, but I recognize both their faces. And I probably would have assumed it was probably Twilight Zone, but at the same time, it's like they could also just be in a movie I saw from the 50s. Like it's entirely possible.
Or even Star Trek, since you've watched all of those.
Sure, yeah, the original series, because obviously it's close enough timeline-wise.
There's a lot of repeat characters, or actors from that show. Yeah,
including some guy named William Shatner. I think he popped up in Star Trek.
He did. You should know this. You watched the whole series. What's wrong with you? No, it's your brain that's broke. Aha.
I feel like saying it was a joke is
what mean joke?
Joke mean funny. Me funny. Also God and funny. Also sexy, intelligent, charismatic.
You may have to zoom out. Your head's gonna start starting to take up the whole screen.
Awe-inspiring. That's another good.
God. Okay, let's move on. It's getting gross.
We'll call this segment Peter Feels Himself. So this not in a physical way, in a you know.
Yeah. Okay.
People get it.
Okay.
People get it. Look, it's not my fault.
What's coming up next week?
It's not my fault you're too tired to process the comedy this time, okay?
I am super tired. I'm starting to get Forrest Whitaker eye. That happens when I get sleepy.
Yes. So, yes. Okay, to sum up my thoughts on this episode before I tell you what's coming next time, since Tara's ready to move on with her life, I think this is a really good episode. It's not the most... It's not. I mean, obviously, there's some stuff to analyze with the God complex stuff, and the fact that it's this shithead who complains all the time, who wants to be God, who
when it doesn't work for it, yeah, the lazy bone.
One of the classic things that often comes up, and in fact, me and the Elves and the Comics podcast were just talking about it this week, is the idea that when someone wants the tough job to be in charge, they tend to be the worst people for it. It's the ones who don't want it, who accept the burden of it, who take it more seriously and will actually do a decent job. So I think there's a little bit of that in here with his personality, but ultimately there's other episodes that I think have greater like science fiction debates and questions and theorizing and philosophizing and all these other things. I think this episode is really good at doing the other side of sci-fi, where it presents you with a cool idea, and it's so good at stoking your imagination of what's going on and the other like viewpoints of the episode, which they only tease at, they only hint at, partly because of limitations of the time, but because of that, I was constantly thinking about this small town civilization, how they were reacting and what they were thinking, as well as the fairly entertaining performance by the Peter. I mean, the Fletcher character is fine. He's a little bit like unfortunately kind of given the short end in the sense that he's the straight man, and he's never going to be as entertaining as the other guy because he is just the straight guy who is going to leave.
Yeah, so. He's the typical good leader.
Yes.
Compared to this guy who is Mr. Lazy Bones, who doesn't want to do anything, or blames everybody else for the problems he has, and wants everything.
Yes.
The Peter complex. I don't think there are any episodes with the Terra. My name is unique enough. We're safe.
It's heavily
all
featured.
us Terras.
It's heavily featured in the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So there's Terras out there. Also, there was a TV show called The United States of Tara. I never saw it, but it existed.
I heard it was good.
Yes, but it's in the title. Your name's in the title. Like
it's Toni Collette.
Is it? Oh, yeah, that's good. That's a good get.
Yeah,
it's just not a bad person to be portraying a Tara.
I think that's her. I don't know. I haven't watched the show.
Well, so what is coming next time? You might ask. So
something brought to you by the smooth taste of Chesterfield cigarettes.
Yes. Rod flogging his product as always.
21 different types of tobacco.
Yes. Also for the Americans, flogging has a double meaning here. It also means to sell things, to be a shill. Not just what happens to Johnny Rico and Starship Troopers. I was going to say a dead horse, but sure, you can. That's an expression, right? Flogging a dead horse? Beating a dead horse, yeah. Beating a dead horse, okay. Anyway, coming up next time, a very obsessed man wants to expose evil in the world, investigating people he sees as murderers, subversives, perverts, and communists, then attempting to ruin their lives. It's called 4 O'Clock, and the screenshot that's in the main image here, he looks particularly demented. This almost looks like it could be something that could turn into something that maybe would be directed by like an Abel Ferrara, just based on that description. Like someone who sees himself as like the vigilante, the hero, but he's actually a complete psychopath. Or even like Rorschach. He's like a Rorschach style character.
I was thinking the movie Frailty, the Bill Paxton one.
Okay, I can see that comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where he believes he's on a mission for God to kill sinners, but he might just be psychotic. And
yeah.
In fact, he's probably psychotic.
Well, you have to watch the movie to find out.
Yes,
I do recommend it. I like that film.
It's very twisty and turny, yes.
Maybe a little bit too much, but yes.
And we reviewed it on Streams After Midnight. Go over to Male Fuzz Movies, the new spin-off channel where our movie content is now moved. Look at that.
And if it's not there, it'll be there shortly.
Look at how natural that was.
Smooth.
Yes.
Like a Chesterfield cigarette.
The only concern here is that the average rating for this episode on IMDb is significantly lower than the past few episodes, so I'm going to keep my expectations in check, even though it sounds amazing.
Sometimes we don't agree with the average ratings.
No, that's true. That's true. So, we'll find out. 4 o'clock, that's the next episode. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe. It does help us out a lot if you do that. YouTube values it so greatly. And of course, you can get us on the Twitters at @male_fuzz for channel updates. Tara, would you tell all the tiny little people who worship me as their god about Patreon?
If you enjoy our reviews, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/mildfuzztv. And if you donate as little as $1 per month, then you will get access to bonus episodes for other shows we do. And if you donate $5 per month, you'll get access to these Twilight Zone reviews 1 week early. And you get other shows a week early and some shows a day early. So, yeah. Peter will accept your donations and build himself a great church.
Tributes, I think you mean to say. I'll accept your tributes.
I don't know what worship is like.
And your sacrifices and I don't know what else I want as a god.
Sacrifice. Like volcano sacrifice?
Just the odd goat or something, whatever.
No.
That's what they do in the satanic movies, is it not? Besides that. Anyway, there you go. That's Twilight Zone. Thank you very much for joining us once again. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV in the Twilight Zone.